What up, y'all? It's your guy Dawson from D&D TV. Thank you for rating, commenting, and subscribing. Everybody who's donated, those of you all who will, you know I appreciate it. All that information is in the description box below. Make sure you go to my other YouTube channel, Dawson Speaks, subscribe over there, and hit the little bell next to the subscribe button so you get notifications when I drop a new video. Now let's get into this topic. Alright, now recently Pastor E.W. Jackson was on his social media going off about something with drag queens and reading to children, and I'm like, what is Pastor E.W. Jackson talking about? And when I was listening to him, I'm like, man, well, let me do some research on this. Basically, he was yelling and saying that parents who take their children to this thing called Drag Queen Storytime, which is happening across the United States around different halls or reading places, bookstores, libraries, where parents bring their children to hear drag queens read to them. And Pastor E.W. Jackson had some very choice words for the parents who bring their children to these Drag Queen Storytime. Now, I'm going to let you all listen to this video as well as some other people who protest against this and support this. And I'm going to come back with the rest of my commentary. And you all know me, I'm Dawson, and I won't hold back.
Taking your children to Drag Queen Story Hour is abuse of a magnitude that is hard to overstate. As far as I'm concerned, it's the equivalent of pedophilia, and it should be treated the same way. And the stupid parents who take their children into this mess need to be dope slapped. They need to have their children taken away from them. Taking your children to Drag Queen Story Hour is abuse of a magnitude that is hard to overstate. As far as I'm concerned, it's the equivalent of pedophilia, and it should be treated the same way. And the stupid parents who take their children into this mess need to be dope slapped. They need to have their children taken away from them.
Drag Queen Storytime in Lafayette is over with no big issues despite protesters gathering against the group. Until recently, the library was tied up in council and legal battles for 4 months after they announced the controversial event. Justice Henderson was there.
Several families gathered at the Southside Library for Drag Queen Storytime. Parents and their children who waited months were eager to sit and listen to the drag queens read.
We had our t-shirts since October, so they were finally getting a chance to wear their t-shirts. So yeah, they were really excited. I mean, I think for kids, you know, they don't see all these like huge differences. You know, they see something new and they're excited about it.
The kids and parents sat patiently as each drag queen read one book, and the drag queens, hoping to send a message.
May they be different, may their friend be different, to always just be open and honest with everyone and to accept anyone, whatever walk of life they may be.
The story hour was met with opposition on the outside of the library. Several protesters stood on the corner of the street holding signs against the event.
This is something that, you know, we as members of the community cannot accept. And there's wide opposition, peaceful and loving, against this happening, this corruption of the innocence of children.
And with everything going on the inside and the outside of the library, organizers say they're happy the day is finally here.
I'm happy for the people in this community and the kids who have registered for this event multiple times, who finally got to come here today and come to their story time, and the parents who have signed up multiple times only to watch it be canceled and finally get to come here and see their event happen.
It should be red. It's a shame what you're doing. A shame. It's an abomination.
That doesn't change the fact. You are grandchildren.
Look at that abomination against God. What a freak against nature. Look at that freak right
God did say he couldn't
All right, y'all, let's go in. Now, let me say this. The supporters, if they want to take their children there, they're not breaking the law. The cops are at all these events. If anything was going on wrong in those events, the cops would take those parents to jail and take those cross-dressers to jail as well. The protesters protest. If that's what you all want to do, stand out there and, hold up signs and, do all that stuff you were doing. You have a right to do that. We can protest in the United States of America. We have a right to protest. So do that. But what really got me was when Pastor E.W. Jackson said the thing about it's a form of pedophilia. And I think we have to be careful when we throw that stuff around, because pedophilia is defined as a reoccurring, intense sexual arousing fantasy, sexual urges, or behavior, including sexual activity with a prepubescent child or children, generally 13 years or younger, over a period of at least 6 months. That's not going on in those events. It really isn't. And so when you say stuff like that, it's like, I know you're angry. I know you're upset, because if that was going on in those events, those parents would be arrested. Those drag queens would be arrested in there. And, that's not happening. Also, Pastor E.W. Jackson went on to say is that these people should have their children taken away from them. Trust me, if social services thought that something was going on in there to harm those children, they would take those children away. But you're forgetting that many people who are LGBTQ have children, biological children. And they're not going to come and take their children away just because they're part of the LGBT community. And then also, for the conversation at hand, I have to ask my subscribers, for some of you who may not agree with the story time thing and, it may groom kids or get into kids' mind because that reading and they're entertaining in there. What do you think about these films and these sitcoms and shows that have men dressed up as women or women dressed up as men? But, people get really, it's thrust in the limelight when it's men dressed up as women. What do you all say about that? Because there are many Hollywood actors who have made millions off of dressing up as women. And some of them are those you know and love, and you watch all of their movies when they come out. And, it started with, Tootsie way back in the 80s. And then Mrs. Doubtfire, and Martin Lawrence came out with Big Mama House. And then we had In Living Color with the skits they used to do all up in there, Wanda and then the other stuff. Then Martin Lawrence did the Shanae character. Who else? Oh, of course, we can't forget Mr. Billionaire himself, Tyler Perry, who's made it. Come on, Medea. Come on. Mr. Billionaire off Medea. And his other ventures as well, but he is known for that character. And I'm not hating on any of those people's success. They did whatever they wanted to do with their life. And, people love that. And still, Tyler Perry didn't get to be a billionaire for nothing now. Come on, y'all. So somebody was going to see those movies, not only with him, but with all these other people, and taking their children as well. And if you're talking about entertainment, if you want to be morally right, all I'm asking is, are you going to be morally consistent? Because if it's entertainment over here and reading, it's story time, what is it when you're looking at movies and you're looking at sitcoms and all this kind of stuff? Y'all just answer that question down in the comments, because I really want to know what you all think about that, because I don't see anyone, or have not seen anyone, protest any of those movies. And I think Eddie Murphy, he did characters where he dressed up as a woman as well. I didn't see people protest any of his movies. So y'all, let me know what you feel about that. Now, let me tell you how I feel about this, because I know you all want to know. Well, Dawson, would you take your kid there? No, I wouldn't. But it would be a double no. I wouldn't take my child to church either, because there was only one incident from my research that I saw where there was a situation at one of these Storytime events where they had a registered sex offender who was there, and that was corrected. That was out at Houston. Now they screen everybody who goes in there with these children, and they should have been doing that. That was on them for doing that. But what do we do when we have these pastors and leaders in churches, mosque centers, and synagogues, and also these teachers? No one's protesting when they violate the children. And just recently, something that happened in Ohio, who's going to protest this situation? Take a look.
New tonight at 6, this local pastor is charged in a massive sex trafficking sting. It's one of nearly 200 people busted across the state line in Mahoning County, Ohio. Channel 11's Amy Marcinkiewicz found out he also taught at a local school. Tonight, he's off the job.
He's not only a part-time instructor at Butler County Community College, he is the pastor of this church near Newcastle. He was arrested in Ohio's largest sex trafficking operation. Just across the border from PA into Ohio, Mahoning County Sheriff deputies arrested this man, Jared Mills. He is one of 177 people arrested in the statewide sting. He stood out to Channel 11 because A, he's from our area, Lawrence County, and B, he's the pastor at Clifton Flat Alliance Church just outside of Newcastle.
Is we have the fact that how to deal with temptation. Temptation is not always very in your face, or as they say, overt, but it's secretive or covert and manipulative.
Mills is charged with felony attempted unlawful sexual conduct with a minor. Court documents say he tried to engage in sexual contact with someone 13 to 16 years old. We stopped by the church. No one was there. We called the church, left a message for the accused pastor. We don't know what his status is here, but we do know BC3, after hearing about his arrest, placed him on a leave of absence. He is a part-time instructor there.
Pastor up here preaching on temptation and can't even deal with his own. Look at that. I told you many of these people up in the pulpit preaching on what they going through. Y'all don't believe me. Y'all don't believe none of the vloggers. Oh, here they go. They just so messy. Well, we good and messy because you keep coming back to watch. Seriously. YouTube is not your church. We here to report what's in the news. But there's no protest for this pastor in Ohio. Tell me why. And the other pastor in Ohio, just something came out on him this week where children who was under his care, he's serving now a life sentence, but other children who was under his care, they're coming out and they're filing stuff in court saying that they were abused by him as well, sexually abused by him while they were in his custody. There were no protesters when I was doing all those vlogs and videos on that pastor. Nobody protested on Anthony Haynes or his wife who's in prison as well. Nobody. Like none of you all do. If you're against it morally with what the drag queens are doing, protest. You got every right to do it. Don't let your kids go there. Protest when you want to. And if you parents want to take your kids there, hey, that's y'all kids. That's on y'all. But here's what I'm saying. If we're going to protest the little story time right there, where we don't have any clue, we don't have any evidence that anything is going on that is that hurting children because the cops are out there and social service would be all over their ass. Do me a favor, y'all. Let's get out here and protest these cases where we have videos and we have court documents and evidence of people in these religious institutions that are sexually abusing children. That's all I'm saying. Now, look, go off in the comments. Try to keep it, clean, because YouTube will, they'll delete your comments and they might shut the comments off altogether because you know how they feel about these topics. Until then, it's your guy Dawson. Take care of yourself and each other. Peace.